Next on Curate.
Being an artist is a tough thing.
Retelling the American experience through the lens of a camera.
Photography isn't factual. It's always the person making the image.
Transforming a weapon of war into a piece of art.
So I thought that just the story of conflict was really interesting, and I wanted to explore that.
Tackling tough social issues with the art of comedy.
The problems are the same. Nothing has changed.
You know what I like about you, Archie?
What's that, Mark?
Nothing.
Creating community art to reveal heroes from within.
There are artists who are making superheroes the waste as the enemy.
It's all ahead on Curate.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Heather Mazzoni.
And I'm Jason Kipros. Welcome to Curate, where each week we showcase creativity from Hampton Roads and across America. This week, when social commentary transforms into art.
As a photographer, Greta Pratt of Norfolk looks to capture the present through her lens in order to tell the stories of the past, particularly the American experience.
It is 3 full-time jobs. Being a mother is a full-time job. Being an artist is a full-time job. Being a professor is a full-time job. So which job are you not going to do very well? The truth with any kind of history, whoever the victor is gets to tell the story, but who's the one that gets to make it? History. And then history creates identity. Documentary is a weird word because you think of it as this factual story, but photography isn't factual at all. No matter how you're taking it, it never is. It's always the person making the image that has the control. To me, documentary is my idea. It's what I see. And what I document is the American experience. That's what I'm interested in.
Stumbling down the avenue, sun is up and the sky is blue, blue like me, and blue like you.
It's called Tending Fires and Other Useful Skills. I went through a lot of different ideas and I ended up at Jamestown taking still pictures, but then I thought, wow, what if they moved? So I decided to do it in video. In history museums, there are a lot of dioramas. And so I kind of think of them as, each one of them is sort of their own diorama. They're frozen in time, but then as things move, I think it kind of points to the fluidity of history, that history is different with every generation.
That blue sky goes home.
And when I moved here to Norfolk, I think it was about the beginning of Liberty Tax Service, which is a fairly new company. So I started seeing these people dressed as Lady Liberty on the sidewalk, and I thought, wow. And looking at the types of people and thinking about the job and who would have this job. So I used a little bit of a low angle for all of them, so I was looking up to them. I did them all on the same kind of day, so that cloudy, stormy, so that they all had sort of the same palette and the same feel to them. I asked the person to pose, not as an employee, but to pick a stance and an expression that they felt proud of. I think it looks kind of like a backdrop of the urban street corner versus the Lincolns, which is sort of this pastoral background. And they connected very personally with the character of Abraham Lincoln, but it was something that they had the luxury of doing, like a hobby. Whereas the Liberty Waivers, they're working on a minimum wage job. They're not doing it for a hobby. It's something that they have to do to survive. Being an artist is a tough thing because, I don't know, maybe not for everybody, but for me, constant doubt of yourself, constantly second-guessing yourself. I remember when my first book came out, and I was about 7 months pregnant with my second child, and In Search of the Corn Queen came out, and I opened the box and I was like, and I took it out, and I remember I just kind of held it, and then I didn't leave my house for like 2 days because I felt raw. I was like an uncooked egg. It was something that I had put so much of my gut into it, my heart, my time. And then suddenly it wasn't just my thing that nobody else had to see. Everybody could see it.
At least you never leave me alone, scared. Lovers, friends, and gold.
Because I am married to a photographer, someone that I really respect his work very much, and he is probably my biggest source of feedback. Reno, so I pull in, and then I noticed these things. It was like a little, funky motel, and I was like, oh, this is cool. So I took some pictures and then drove like 80 miles away and went, that would really be a lot better if I had a person in it. So I turned around and drove 80
After
miles.
driving
So I drove back, and this guy had his door open like this, and I was like, do you think I could take your picture? And he just started crying, basically. You can see he can hardly move. He's on oxygen. So I said, I'll come back in an hour because the light was bad. And I went and I thought about it, and I got really sad. So I bought him some groceries and went back and gave him, handed the groceries in through the door. And I'm like, do you think it could come out a little bit? And he just went, he goes, what you see is what you get. I'm practically dead in here.
That's really sad.
I know.
Yeah, but that's part of photography,
What do my students need from me? How can I support them in the way that I would want my child to be supported? So I try to push everybody really hard. I don't let up on them. Well, I did have somebody say to me a couple semesters ago, "You're not my mother," which I thought was really funny, but he was kind of acting like he needed to go to his room, so I guess I was acting like his mother. Everybody has got such interesting stories, and I'm always really excited to hear them, but it's not like I want to hang out and be best friends with anybody. You share something when you take pictures of people and spend time with them like that. You share something really kind of intense. And I think looking into somebody's eyes, there's just sort of like this vast undiscovered territory. There's always a deeper place that you can go, more you can get to know.
For more on Greta's works and to find out more about her photography, visit our website, whro.org/curate.
Textiles, music, and a disarmed nuclear warhead. An artist in Miami merged the three into an art piece she hopes will show the major roles humans have played in shaping Florida's environment.
Christy Gass is a Miami-based artist, and she's taken this opportunity and worked over a year on this project that's really inspired by a disarmed nuclear missile in Everglades National Park. So part of what we do as an organization is give artists the chance to make it a real site-specific exhibition. So she's really engaged with Everglades National Park for this show, something that already exists there, but really making it her own.
The first piece that the audience encounters when they walk through the door is a video entitled War Drums that was shot in one take at dawn in one of the last stands of Slash Pine Forest, which was the native forest that originally covered a lot of Dade County. I wrote a score for two performers, two drummers, two percussionists, a conga player and a snare player. And I shot sort of one long circular take through the forest that passed by each of them individually. For this show, I was looking at the Hole in the Donut region of the Everglades, which was sort of full of these pine forests until the early 20th century when they were raised for tomato fields. They went fallow and were overgrown by Brazilian pepper. And around the same time, the military built a base there during the Cold War, and it was on high alert during the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was one of the Nike missile bases in South Florida. So I thought that just the story of conflict as witnessed by this one particular place was really interesting, and I wanted to explore that in an artwork.
So she's incorporated this handmade textile that is camouflaged with the various plants in the Everglades, plants that have changed over time because of the use of the land there. And it will overtake the gallery space in this huge sculpture that will hang from the ceiling, and viewers can come in and walk in and around and under it.
This is the largest textile sculpture that I've ever made. And I grew up in the country, and there was very little access to the arts when I was a kid, but I learned how to sew. That's what the women in my family did for a living. So it's always been a medium that I've been interested in and just kind of skilled at. And so it's always something that I go back to when I'm thinking through a project.
Gass' work have been exhibited internationally, including galleries and museums in Zurich and Chile.
Norman Lear is the man behind several groundbreaking television programs. Many of them reflected social commentary of their day. Much of Lear's creations reflect his own views on humanity and this journey we call life.
He has been around approximately forever. He is 92 years old. Ladies and gentlemen, Norman Lear.
There's a lot to do to be a parent. There's a lot to do to be a citizen. A serious person doesn't wake up in the morning without a lot to do, unrelated to a job or anything, just to be a person and to feel humanity.
He tries to practice what he preaches. He believes very much in equality and fairness and honesty, and he cares, and he's vigilant about it. And I find it amazing as someone that makes documentaries and is always trying to get to the sort of core essence of the truth. Someone that lives their life like that is, just a joy.
Hello! Boy, Norman's always in here, man. Okay, Ken. Good to see you. I can't sit here feeling as I do and regret 1 minute of any minute in my past.
Look, there's only one sensible way out of this. You don't have to have the baby. It's legal now.
You know, she's right. It's legal in New York State. You better give that a thought.
I have given it a thought. Oh, I don't know. I just don't know.
I think that's only because our humanity has not changed. The problems we were dealing with in the 70s are much the same as, if a woman is suffering menopause, she's suffering menopause this year the way she was suffering then. The problems are the same. The economy is tight. Somebody is worried about losing a job. Nothing has changed. Humanity is still humanity.
You know what I like about you, Archie?
What's that, boy?
Nothing.
Playing those roles was a big responsibility. And especially if you're playing an American bigot, as Carol O'Connor was. I don't know how much, I know I had less understanding of his difficulties than I did in later years, and certainly this late. But I did understand I was dealing with a man who didn't know his own riches as an actor, and especially in that role. We fought all the time, and he can be seen on television in a number of situations, talking a bit negatively, not anything terrible, but talking a bit negatively about me and our relationship. But when he passed, and I went to visit his wife, Nancy, she asked me to wait until the others were gone. And when they were gone, she took me into his study. And his desk was bare except for a book or something and one letter. And it was a letter I had written him 4 or 5 or 6 years before, in which I was telling him that despite everything we were going through together, the difficulty of working day by day, week by week, that I loved him, that I couldn't be more grateful that there wasn't an Archie until he mouthed the first words.
You're right. The British are a bunch of pansies. Pansies, fairies, and sissies. And the Japanese are a race of midgets. The Irish are boozers. The Mexicans are bandits.
And you Polacks are meatheads.
I was invited to a luncheon in San Francisco. There were only 3 tables. The Dalai Lama was the guest of honor. I was seated next to him at one of 3 tables. As we sat down, there was a little bit of lettuce and some baby shrimp in the lettuce. And we had been talking, and suddenly the hostess says we can start eating. I'm eating and I'm talking on this side, and so when I look over at the Dalai Lama, and he's sitting there. And I said, Your Holiness. And he said, Are you interested to know why I'm not eating the shrimp? I said, well, yes. He said, I view them as about 12 beings. And I said, I understand. And so when we talked about whatever, when that was taken away, they brought us a small steak. And again, I was occupied on this side until I looked over, and the Dalai Lama is cutting into a steak. And I looked, and before I could say, Your Holiness, he said, oh, you want to know about the steak? I said, yes. He said, well, I have 3 reasons. He said, first, I wouldn't wish to disappoint my hostess and eat nothing. 2, those were 12 sentient, is the word, beings. This is just 1. And 3, I love steak.
Laughter, just has to add time. If lifting weights or running, can add time, God, how laughter can add time. Remember, you heard it here.
Guys like us, we had it made.
You can watch the full American Masters program, Norman Lear, Just Another Version of You, online. Visit our website, WHRO.org/curate for more.
An interactive gallery in Columbus, Ohio, is not only displaying a message about the environment, it's helping to change assumptions about the abilities of people with disabilities.
These individuals have so much to offer. ARC Industries has been around for over 50 years, and it basically is a program that was initiated by parents looking for the next step for their children after high school. They wanted something safe, and of course, we are sheltered employment. ARC Industries also is community employment placement and enclave services. So there are probably altogether about 1,400 people that are served by ARC Industries. These are individuals that didn't fit into the normal workshop activity. They didn't want to have to bag or shrink wrap or collate, assemble, whatever, package. They wanted to create, and they are extremely creative.
We were really excited to talk to them about what their artists are working on, and we talked about a couple of ideas. One that really stuck in our heads was the idea of taking the artwork that their artists were making and incorporating it in some sort of game format. Like you think about the game Candyland. We all remember Candyland. You take your piece, you travel through all the different colors, you go through some scary parts, you go through some really exciting sugary parts. And their artists wanted to think about what their game would be like. They ended up coming with a game called Superland. And they wanted to inhabit that land with all different variety of superheroes. So the artists were encouraged to think about what their superhero identity would be, their kind of alter ego.
I got the idea from like almost from like Dragon Ball Z fusion. Jessica, the what's his name? Is Heat Wave.
You know, when you think about superheroes, you have to think about the arch enemy, right? There's always a villain that you have to fight against. And so as these artists were working with the team at Sun Apple and Arc Industries, they started thinking about what the enemy would be.
They had seen a 2-minute snippet on YouTube, I believe, about the albatross. And that the albatross lived on, probably most of them were born on an uninhabited island but died because they were fed plastic that had washed up on shore.
So they started thinking about that waste as the enemy. So their idea was to take that superheroes and fight against that. And that's how they came up with this idea of using all recycled materials to create the art installations in the gallery.
They cleaned a lot of plastic. They took the labels off, hand cleaned, cut, heated. You know, it's just been a process. Bottles and bottles, about 12,000. There's a Sea of Love. There's the Invisible Bridge. There's an Amazon forest. There's the blue trees.
And then put a little bit of glue on it, on the trees, and then put a lot of glitter. It was everywhere. It was everywhere.
This is the fashion bush. It's actually made of bottles that have been cut into strips, and as they're twirled into spirals, and they're heated, so they stay into that spiral. There are 5 main artists that have been there basically from day one, from January till October. Everything that you see here was taken from a drawing they did. And so they have been our main artists, and there's probably about 22 to 23 other artists that we call our supporting cast. We wanted to be able to pay them to show them that what they do has worth. So we got a $15,300 grant, and so the 5 main artists get a large portion of that. All the supporting cast gets a pay too.
We were really excited about the idea of turning the gallery into the game board. I love when artists think about using the gallery space here in a different way, a fun new way, and that was something I can tell you for sure we've never done in here before, and it's really awesome.
Sun Apple Studio most recently created a Christmas tree ornament that was displayed on the Ohio tree in President's Park in front of the White House.
This week we have a bonus video for you featuring the art of spoken word.
Tallwood High senior Ahkei Togun of Virginia Beach took top honors at the 2016 Poetry Out Loud National Championship.
Here's his award-winning poem called Generational Curse.
Somehow the words "I'm good" became a substantive medication. Sitting behind closed doors became a form of meditation. Negativity is spread over the generation. Mind full of junk, body filled with pain, and friends that never give positive motivation. Stuck in relationships that end with a negative connotation because we're such in a rush to fall in love that we look in all the wrong places when really all it took was patience. See, we never really know who's happy because there's agony behind even the strongest faces. See, this is our generation, and somehow we've become mindless, hypnotized by the trends that follow the thoughts of drugs, sex, and violence. See, this is our generation, and somehow we've become content with saying, "Free my mans," and "Rest in peace, my brother," instead of going up to him and saying, "Get off the streets, my brother." See, this is our generation, suffocating by the polluted air that we feel with the wrong vibe, because somehow she keeps on falling for the wrong guys, and we keep so many connections with the wrong ties that we end up tripping instead of making a difference. See, this is our generation, all in this one form of alliteration, listen, please don't let these words deceive you. I still see lawyers, doctors, teachers, even more writers in the making. I promise you, I still believe in you, but this is our generation, and we have to find a way to make this a better nation. Sickness, homelessness, poverty, you name it, we have the power to reframe it, but only if we open up our minds and rearrange it in order to be the world's tutor. As we, our generation, stands up, walks hand in hand as we take our journey into the future.
Again, Ahkei placed first out of 52 other state champions in the Poetry Out Loud National Championship. And Jason, I want to say thank you for joining us and taking time out from your performances with Plan B Comedy, seen at Zyder's American Dream Theater in Virginia Beach.
Thanks, Heather. I've really enjoyed it. And that wraps up this week's Curate. For more on any of the artists we featured, visit our Curate website. And be sure to tell us what you think about the program on our Facebook page. I'm Jason Kipros. Thanks for watching.
And I'm Heather Mazzoni. We'll see you next time on Curate.